I've always believed the small things are what unravel you. It wasn't the raised voices or the secretive phone calls, or even the distant looks that started it. It was a glint, just a quiet flicker of light in the morning. That's what cracked the veneer. The bathroom was still fogged from her shower when I walked in. Beads of condensation clung to the mirror, and the scent of her citrus shampoo lingered in the air, faint but present. A slant of sunlight slipped in through the blinds, and that's when I saw it. Her phone on the edge of the vanity, screen glowing faintly with a new notification. I wasn't snooping. I never had a reason to. We weren't the kind of couple who kept passwords or talked about privacy like it was a battle line. But the message was right there on the lock screen, framed in that soft, accusing light. Last night was perfect. I stared at the words. 3 seconds. 5. Maybe more. The notification faded into the background of her wallpaper. A photo of us at Cannon Beach, her smile radiant, mine a bit crooked as I squinted into the sun. She was humming in the shower, still behind the glass, completely unaware. I didn't move at first. My feet were rooted to the tile like they had grown there overnight. I just stood, cold now, breath shallow, watching the echoes of that message drift around me like fog. It was from a number not saved in her contacts. No name, just digits. Unfamiliar, but local. The glass door slid open behind me, and her silhouette stepped out, steam curling around her. She grabbed her towel, didn't even glance in my direction, just walked past humming some tune I didn't recognize. She didn't see me. I didn't say a word. I stepped out of the bathroom, feeling like I'd stolen something. Her phone remained on the counter. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. Not yet. Downstairs, the kettle whistled. I moved mechanically, making coffee the same way I had every morning for the past 8 years. 2 sugars, half and half. Her mug first, then mine. The morning sun poured through the windows like it always did, warming the oak table, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. Everything was normal, but nothing felt normal. I handed her the coffee when she came down, wrapped in her robe, damp hair tucked behind her ears. "Thanks, babe," she said, pecking my cheek. I swallowed something bitter. "You sleep okay?" "Yeah, you?" "Sure." She didn't notice anything. After breakfast, she grabbed her keys and bag and left for work with a quick, "Love you." "Love you too," I said, watching her pull out of the driveway. The words felt foreign on my tongue. Once she was gone, I sat at the kitchen table, fingers wrapped around the warmth of my mug, and stared at the spot where her phone had Saturday. Last night was perfect. We hadn't done anything last night. She came home late, said work ran over. We had dinner, takeout, then watched some crime documentary she picked, but her eyes were on her phone half the time. She went to bed early. I'd stayed up, reading. It wasn't our night, that was perfect, which meant it had been someone else's. I went upstairs and sat on the edge of the bed. My chest felt tight. My stomach churned. I couldn't even tell you why it hurt so much. I hadn't seen anything beyond that message. I had no proof. No name. Just a phrase. But in that moment, I felt something shift. A quiet realization settling over me like a slow, cold rain. She was hiding something, and now I had to decide what to do with it. I took out my laptop and opened a blank document. That's what I do when my head spins. I write things down. Engineer by trade, list maker by nature. When things don't make sense, I analyze. So I wrote. Message, last night was perfect. Unfamiliar number. No unusual behavior this morning. Showered first thing, as usual. Left for work on time. No other indicators yet. Then, a second list. Possible explanations. Friend joking? Old message popping up late. Work thing? Affair? I couldn't even type that last one without my hands trembling. I highlighted it. Bolded it. Affair. There it was. The word that would now haunt every interaction. I didn't go to work. I told my office I was dealing with a plumbing issue. A lie, but not the kind that hurts. Not like hers. Instead, I set about gathering information, subtle, quiet. I started with her phone, now left on the nightstand. She always left it unlocked. Trusted me, I suppose. Or didn't think I'd care. I opened her messages. Nothing. All cleared. Except for a group chat with her coworkers and a few family members. The message I'd seen wasn't there. Had she deleted it? Next, I checked call logs. That number wasn't there either. That's when I realized she had a second app. Something hidden inside a folder she titled Fitness. It was an encrypted messenger. Not one I recognized, but one designed to vanish messages after they were read. I tapped it open. It asked for a code. I tried her birthday. No luck. I tried mine. Access granted. And there it was. A string of conversations, all auto-deleted except one recent message she hadn't cleared. A single reply she hadn't yet opened. Can't stop thinking about you. You taste like heaven. My vision tunneled. My ears rang. My hand went slack, and her phone slipped from my grasp, landing softly on the bed. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. Not her. Not Jenna. But it was her phone. Her app. Her secret. I picked it back up, scrolled further, but that was it. No other saved messages. Nothing more to uncover. Just fragments of a private world I had no part in. I returned the phone to the nightstand exactly as I'd found it. I erased any trace of the app from recent history. I wiped my prints with the corner of the bedsheet. Then I sat, and I stared, and I tried to imagine what kind of life she was living that I didn't know about. That night, we ate dinner together. She asked how my day was. I said the plumber was late. She nodded and went back to her salad. We watched a show. We laughed at the same jokes. She curled into me as we lay in bed. Everything was normal, except it wasn't. My mind reeled, running back through our last few months. The missed calls, the late arrivals, the quick showers, the distant looks. I remembered the time I suggested a weekend getaway, and she said she had work deadlines. The trip she took alone to Chicago for a conference I couldn't find listed anywhere. Pieces, puzzle pieces, and now I was seeing the edges. The next morning, I woke early. She was already in the bathroom, shower running. Her phone was on the charger beside the bed. It lit up. Last night was perfect. Can't wait to see you again. My hand reached for it, shaking slightly. The number wasn't saved. But this time I copied it. I was done playing the quiet observer. Next, I needed a name. And after that, I'd need a plan. Because this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about how I was going to end it. I stared at the number I'd copied from her phone, memorizing the digits like they were coordinates to some hidden place, the place where my wife's real life lived. She was still in the shower, oblivious, humming along to some song I couldn't place. Her voice had always calmed me. Not today. I didn't bother trying to act natural anymore. I was done with pretending everything was fine. Back in my office, I opened a private browser and pasted the number into a reverse lookup tool. A few clicks, a small fee, and 15 seconds later, I had a name. Mason R. Pierce. Age, 36. Local. Listed occupation, physical therapist. I blinked at the screen. That name meant nothing to me. Mason. It sounded bland, harmless. But now it carried weight. I clicked through. His clinic was 10 minutes from Jenna's office. The timing fit. The location made sense. He wasn't someone from another state, some anonymous fling. He was here. He was real. My heart thudded like it was trying to escape my chest. For a while, I just sat there, staring at the screen. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Maybe for the universe to rewind itself. For reality to shift back into alignment. But it didn't. It never does. Instead, I printed out the page, name, photo, address, clinic information. I folded it carefully and placed it in a manila folder in the back of my filing cabinet, under some tax returns. I wasn't ready to decide what I would do with it. Not yet. The rest of the day moved like mud. She left for work with a kiss and a laugh. I watched her drive off like I was watching a stranger. Later that morning, I called the clinic pretending to be a potential patient. I needed to hear his voice. "This is Mason," a man answered, warm, casual, professional. "How can I help?" I paused, then hung up. That voice, it was easy, polished. I imagined Jenna smiling at it. I imagined her leaning into it. I imagined her hearing that voice while lying to me about spreadsheets and staff meetings. I nearly shattered my phone. Instead, I made a list. That's how I survive things. Lists, structure, action. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things. I was going to watch. Thursday, 4:42 p.m. She texted, "Staying late. Meeting ran long. Don't wait for me." 6:15 p.m. I watched her pull into the driveway, her hair slightly tousled, cheeks flushed. She smelled faintly of eucalyptus and something else I couldn't name, something that didn't belong to us. That weekend, I played the doting husband. We took the kids to the farmer's market, bought overpriced candles, held hands while sipping coffee. She smiled more than usual, like she was covering something. Sunday morning, while she slept, I slid her phone from the nightstand and slipped into the hallway. The secret app required the same code, my birthday. She hadn't changed it. This time, the messages were still there. Short bursts of lust masked as poetry. Mason, I can still taste you. Jenna, you're terrible. Mason, you love it. Jenna, don't tempt me this week. I can't think straight when I do. She'd replied while we were lying in bed, my hand resting against her back. I copied every message, screenshotted them all, saved them to a hidden folder in my cloud storage. I wasn't sure why I needed the proof. Maybe to convince myself it wasn't a hallucination. Maybe for what would come later. But this wasn't just betrayal. It was an affair. Intimate. Repeated. Shameless. And she brought it into our home. Into our bed. Into our lives. By Tuesday, I had enough information to know their schedule. He didn't work late Thursdays. She worked late, nearly every one. The overlap was too precise to be coincidence. So I took Thursday off. I didn't tell her. Instead, I followed her. It's strange, sitting in your car like a ghost. Watching someone you love transform into someone you don't recognize. At 5:10 p.m., she left her office, earlier than she told me. She wore her red coat, the one she always said made her feel bold, confident, the one I hadn't seen her wear in a year. She got into her car, and I trailed her at a distance. She drove like nothing mattered, like she wasn't heading into a lie. She didn't go home. She didn't go to a work function. She drove to a private fitness studio on the edge of town, a narrow building tucked behind a bakery and a florist, easy to miss. Mason's clinic. She parked him back. I watched from across the street. 10 minutes passed, then 15, and then they appeared. Through a side door, she stepped out, followed closely by a tall man with a crooked smile and a hand on her lower back. He leaned in. She tilted her chin. Their kiss wasn't quick. It wasn't polite. It was the kind of kiss that rewrites history. I snapped the photo before I even realized I'd raised my phone. The sound of the shutter echoed in my ears like a gunshot. I drove home before she saw me. That night, she came home cheerful. She brought wine. She asked about my day. She smelled of lavender and lies. I've been thinking, she said, curling next to me. We should take a weekend trip. Just the two of us. I nodded. That sounds nice. My voice didn't even shake. She leaned in and kissed me, the same lips that had kissed him hours ago. I kissed her back. Then I went to the bathroom and washed my mouth until it burned. Friday morning came like a slap. She was in the shower, singing softly again. That same song I didn't know. Her phone lit up. Mason, can't wait for Sunday. I booked the room. For p.m., check-in. Same place. My breath caught. They had a system. A hotel. A ritual. I'd been wondering when I'd reached the breaking point. Now I knew. Sunday. All day Saturday, I was quiet. Polite. Focused. She noticed. Asked if I was okay. Just tired, I said. We watched a movie that night. She fell asleep halfway through. I didn't sleep at all. Instead, I sat in my office and made another list. Sunday plan. Book same hotel. Arrive early. Confirm room. Set up camera. Leave recording. Retrieve footage. By 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, I was in the hotel lobby. I wore sunglasses, a hoodie, asked the front desk for a room next to theirs. Used a fake name. Paid cash. The receptionist didn't even blink. Room 217. Jenna and Mason were in 219. I waited. Quiet. Unmoving. Listening for footsteps in the hall. At 4:03 p.m., the door next to mine opened. I pressed my ear to the wall. Laughter. Muffled voices. Another kiss, probably. The door clicked shut. I waited 15 minutes. Then I slipped into the hallway, set the tiny camera in the hallway vent opposite their door, angled perfectly. Voice activated. Motion triggered. Then I left. That evening, Jenna came home smelling like a spa and exhaustion. I needed that nap, she said, stretching. Felt good to rest. I nodded, staring past her. Dinner, she asked. Let's just order in, I replied. She smiled. Perfect, but the real perfection was waiting on my laptop. The camera worked better than I'd hoped. The audio was clear. The footage was unambiguous. It started with a knock. The door opening. The kiss. The laughter. And then it was everything. The sound. The rhythm. The betrayal in high definition. I watched until the screen blurred. Then I closed the file. And smiled. Because now I had all I needed. And the revenge wouldn't be vague or subtle. It would be cinematic. Revenge, when it first enters your bloodstream, feels like a drug. Cold, bright, and merciless. That night, after watching the footage, I sat in the dark and replayed the sound of their laughter. It wasn't the kind of laugh that belongs to strangers sneaking around. It was intimate, practiced, familiar. It was the laughter of two people who had already decided they were safe. That, I realized, was their mistake. Jenna believed her secret existed in a sealed box. She thought I was the kind of man who avoided confrontation, who would notice the cracks and quietly glue them back together. For years I was. But something changes when you see the truth rendered in digital clarity. You stop being a husband and become an architect of retribution. And I already had the blueprint. The next morning, the first phase of my plan began. At 7:20 a.m., she came down the stairs, dressed in her navy coat, tapping something into her phone. Probably him. She smiled when she saw me in the kitchen. "Coffee smells amazing," she said. I handed her a cup, same as always. "Extra cream," I said quietly. "Perfect," she said, kissing my cheek before heading out the door. Perfect. That word again. It kept finding its way into our mornings like a cruel echo. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I pulled out the flash drive holding the video from the hotel and slid it into a new folder. I titled it simply Truth. Then I copied the file onto 2 other drives and sealed each one into separate envelopes. One I'd keep, one I'd send to Mason's clinic, and one, eventually, to Jenna herself. But not yet. Timing was everything. For now, I had to know how far the affair went. I began building a second timeline, calls, texts, work trips, all cross-referenced with Mason's schedule. Using the clone from her hidden phone, I tracked their message patterns, their gaps, the days she suddenly worked late. The truth unfolded like blueprints under fluorescent light. Their affair wasn't new. It had begun months ago, around the time she'd started training sessions for her back pain. He was her therapist, all right. The betrayal stretched across every season. Her birthday, my father's funeral, even our anniversary. That last one broke me more than I care to admit. I had surprised her with a weekend in the mountains. She'd said she couldn't go because of a client emergency. I'd believed her. I'd even told her I understood. While I unpacked alone in that rented cabin, she'd spent the night in a different room, one that looked alarmingly similar to the hotel in my video. I knew because I found the time-stamped photo. The curtains matched. The first person I told wasn't a friend or a lawyer. It was my reflection. In the bathroom mirror, I studied the man staring back, bloodshot eyes, clenched jaw, the faint tremor in his hands. "You'll handle this," I whispered. "You'll handle it your way." I didn't want to scream. I wanted her to feel it. Slowly. Precisely. So I began with subtle things. I changed my passwords, redirected our joint account notifications to my email, quietly opened a new credit line in my name only. Then I started moving pieces around like a chess game she didn't know she was playing. Jenna was meticulous, but not as much as me. She left patterns. Her purse in the same place each night. Her car parked in the same spot. It took me a single afternoon to install a tracker under the bumper and sync it to my phone. By the end of that week, I knew everywhere she went. Tuesday, lunch break, clinic, 26 minutes. Thursday, late meeting, actually a drive to Mason's condo, 98 minutes. Friday, florist, then home, probably gilt roses. And Sunday, always the same hotel. She thought she was in control, but she was already inside my plan, every move mapped to the millimeter. One evening, while she showered, I sat on our bed, watching the clone of her hidden phone in real time. The messages popped up like sparks. "Mason, Sunday again?" "Jenna, can't wait. You're the only thing keeping me sane." "Mason, bring the red dress." "Jenna, you'll have to help me take it off." My pulse stayed steady. I read it all with a detachment that scared me. That's when I realized what I was turning into. The man who'd once built bridges for a living was now constructing a downfall. But before I went further, I needed help. Not a friend, someone professional. I called an old acquaintance, Marcus Dean, a digital forensic consultant who'd done subcontract work for my firm. I told him I needed his services discreetly. "Cheating?" he asked bluntly when I hinted at my reason. "Evidence," I said. "I can give you something better than evidence," Marcus replied. "I can give you control." By Friday evening, I met him at a small cafe downtown. He handed me a small device, something that looked like a pen. Audio, high fidelity, time-stamped. Battery lasts 12 hours. Hide it anywhere. I asked if he judged people who did this sort of thing. He smirked. "I build tools. What people do with them isn't my business." Back home, I hid the recorder inside the car's air vent on her side. The next morning, I told her I'd be gone most of Sunday for a work trip. She smiled too quickly. Good timing, she said. I'll probably visit my sister. Her lies had become almost elegant. Sunday arrived heavy with silence. I followed from a distance, my tracker showing her moving along the same route as before. She parked at the hotel, right on schedule. I didn't go inside this time. I didn't need to. That evening, when she came home, humming again, I retrieved the pen recorder. I waited until she was asleep before I pressed play. The first half was dull, music from her car stereo, traffic noise, a brief phone call to someone from work. Then a pause. And then his voice. Mason's. Faint at first, then closer. I missed you. I missed you too. And then the sound I can never unhear. The unmistakable noise of her betraying me in the same car where she'd once told me she loved me more than life itself. I stopped the playback and sat there in the dark, hands trembling, the pen recorder still warm in my palm. That was the final piece. Now, I wasn't just hurt. I was armed. The next morning, I woke with a strange calm. Jenna brewed coffee, scrolling through her phone, humming. Everything appeared ordinary. How's your sister? I asked casually. She's fine, she said without looking up. Why? I smiled faintly. Just wondering. She didn't notice. I drove to work, but my mind wasn't there. I was designing something else entirely. A confrontation that would dismantle both her lies and her confidence. I didn't want shouting or chaos. I wanted a moment of clarity so sharp it would slice clean through her facade. I pictured the scene. Our living room, quiet evening, her wine glass trembling in her hand as the video played on the TV. The footage of the hotel. The sound from the car. Her laughter echoing back at her. But then, another idea began to form. Something even more precise. Something public. Because what hurt her most wouldn't be my anger. It would be exposure. So, I began to rewrite the blueprint. This time, the foundation wouldn't be revenge for its own sake. It would be justice, constructed with the same precision I used for every bridge I'd ever built. And just like those bridges, once finished, there'd be no way back. Revenge doesn't arrive with thunder. It begins as a whisper that grows louder until it fills your entire world. By the time the weekend came, that whisper had become a plan with structure, precision, and inevitability. The evidence sat waiting in my locked desk drawer, video footage, audio recordings, text transcripts, and time-stamped location logs. The weight of it all felt almost physical, like a secret I had to carry carefully to keep it from spilling. I'd spent nights rehearsing the confrontation in my mind, every word calculated, every reaction mapped. But when the moment finally came into view, I realized something. I didn't just want her to know I knew. I wanted everyone to know. Not out of cruelty, but because truth hidden too long turns toxic, and I'd been breathing poison for months. The perfect stage came to me by accident. Our 10th anniversary was a week away, and Jenna, in her boundless irony, had suggested a small gathering at our house. Just family and a few friends, she'd said one night, curling against me. We haven't hosted anything in ages. The sheer gall of it made me almost laugh. Hosting a celebration of our love while sneaking around with her therapist? It was too poetic to ignore. That was when I decided the unveiling would happen at the party. It was bold, reckless maybe, but clean. No yelling, no blood. Just truth. Presented like art. The days leading up to it were a study in acting. I played my part perfectly, doting, forgiving, affectionate even. We went shopping for wine and appetizers. She held my arm. She kissed me in public. I smiled back as if nothing were wrong. All the while, I was building the stage behind the curtain. A hidden flash drive tucked behind our TV. A short video edited with surgical precision. Just enough footage to erase any doubt. The clip opened with the two of them walking into the hotel room, followed by 30 seconds of their laughter and voices. Nothing explicit, but damning beyond repair. The final frame was the text message that started it all. Last night was perfect. I overlaid one line of text before the video faded to black. Truth doesn't hide forever. Friday arrived. Jenna spent the morning fussing over decorations while I strung lights in the backyard. She looked radiant, almost glowing, like someone whose lies had nourished her. Are you sure you're okay? She asked, brushing my sleeve. You've been quiet lately. Just tired, I replied. Big project wrapping up. She smiled. After tonight, you'll need a break. Maybe we can finally take that trip you keep talking about. Yeah, I said softly. After tonight. By evening, the guests arrived. Her friends filled the house with laughter and perfume. Mason wasn't there, of course. She'd be far too cautious for that. But his ghost hovered in every corner. Every time her phone buzzed, and she silenced it with a smile. Around 8, the lights dimmed a little. Music played low from the speakers. I stood by the kitchen window, watching the reflection of my wife. Beautiful, charming, lying, and thought about the man I'd been before that text appeared. That man was gone. I raised my glass. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, I said. It means a lot to celebrate 10 years with so many people who've watched us grow. A chorus of cheers. Jenna smiled, eyes bright. But, I continued, I realized something while planning tonight. We spend so much time celebrating what we think we know about each other, but rarely do we celebrate the truth. Jenna tilted her head slightly, still smiling, uncertain. So, as a surprise, I said, I put together something special, a little film to commemorate our journey. She laughed. Oh no, did you make one of those embarrassing slideshow things? Something like that, I said. I tapped the remote in my pocket. The TV behind us flickered on. At first, it looked exactly like what she expected, a montage of photos from our early years. Our wedding. Our first home. The kids. Laughter rippled through the guests as the memories flashed by. Then, the music faded. The screen cut to black, and a familiar hotel hallway appeared. Jenna froze. The audio started, muffled laughter, her voice unmistakable. Then his. The guests went silent. One of her friends gasped. She took a step forward. What is this? She whispered. I didn't answer. I just watched her face as the 30 seconds unfolded. The hand on her back. The kiss. The sound of her saying his name. When the screen went dark again, the message appeared. Truth doesn't hide forever. The room held its breath. Jenna turned toward me, face drained of color. How could you? She started, but her voice cracked. How could I? I said quietly. You mean how could you? Her friends shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting anywhere but her. One of them muttered something about calling her a cab. Jenna's hand shook. You could have talked to me privately. I almost laughed. Privately? Like the secret hotel rooms? Like the car you used as your confessional? She flinched. Don't do this here, she pleaded under her breath. Here, I repeated. You mean in our home? The one you turned into a lie? She started to cry then, but I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt a strange, hollow clarity, the calm that comes after the storm finally hits land. I loved you, I said simply. And you killed that quietly. This, I gestured toward the frozen screen, is the funeral. The crowd began to disperse, murmuring apologies as they slipped out the door. Within minutes, the laughter and music were gone. Only the echo of silence remained. Jenna stood by the window, trembling, mascara streaking down her face. You humiliated me. No, I said softly. You did that. I just stopped protecting you from it. She sank onto the couch, silent, eyes vacant. I didn't stay to comfort her. I went upstairs, packed a single duffel bag, and walked out. The night air felt clean for the first time in months. At the hotel where I'd recorded everything, I booked the same room. It felt fitting somehow, the same walls, but different ghosts. I opened my laptop and uploaded everything to a secure drive, along with a letter addressed to her and Mason both. I wasn't going to destroy them. I wasn't that kind of man. But I would let them live with the knowledge that truth had teeth, and I'd taught it how to bite. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message from her. Just 2 words. Please talk. I didn't reply. Instead, I stood at the window, watching the sunrise break through the fog. Somewhere out there, she was probably sitting in the wreckage of our life, realizing that the walls she'd built on lies had finally collapsed. And yet, beneath the ache, there was something else. Something almost unfamiliar. Freedom. Still, I knew the story wasn't done. There was one more thing left to uncover. One last piece of the blueprint I hadn't examined. The reason why. I needed to hear it from her. One last conversation, face to face. Not for closure. For truth. I didn't rush to see her. I waited 3 days. Long enough for the dust to settle, for her friends to stop calling, for the silence to grow heavy enough to fill every room in that house. When I finally drove back, I found her car in the driveway, but the curtains drawn. The front door was unlocked. The place felt smaller, quieter. Our wedding photo still hung on the wall, but someone had turned it face down on the console table, as if even the image of us couldn't bear to look anymore. She was in the kitchen, sitting at the counter with a mug of coffee gone cold. The same mug she'd used every morning for years. She didn't look up when I stepped inside. "You still have a key," she said softly. "I built this place," I replied. "Figured I earned it." For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said. "I almost didn't," I admitted. "But I needed to know one thing." She looked up finally, eyes red, face drawn. "What?" "Why him?" Her lips parted, then closed again. She took a shaky breath. "I don't know if you'll believe me." "Try me." She stared into the coffee. "It wasn't supposed to happen. He helped with my back after the accident. He listened when I talked. You were working so much, and I kept telling myself it was just friendship. Then it wasn't. And by the time I realized how far I'd gone, I couldn't see the way back." I let the words hang between us. They didn't sound rehearsed. They sounded like someone admitting to a crime they'd already been sentenced for. "I know what you're thinking," she continued. "That I could have come to you. That I should have. And you're right. I should have. But I was lonely, and it scared me to admit it out loud." Lonely. The word hit harder than I expected. Not because it justified her, but because it reminded me of the quiet spaces between us, the late nights at the office, the mornings spent staring at our own reflections instead of each other. I wanted to argue, to tell her loneliness isn't a free pass to betray someone. But instead, I said nothing. She went on, voice trembling. "When I saw that video, when I heard my own laugh, I realized how much I'd changed. I don't even recognize myself. You didn't deserve any of this." "No," I said evenly. "I didn't." We sat in silence again. I could hear the faint ticking of the clock above the stove. Finally, she asked, "Did you enjoy it? Doing what you did in front of everyone?" "Enjoy?" I repeated. "No, it wasn't about joy. It was about balance." She frowned. "Balance. I wanted you to feel what I felt. Not just the betrayal, but the exposure. The helplessness of watching something collapse while you can't stop it." Her eyes filled again. "You could have destroyed me privately." "I could have," I said. "But you destroyed us privately. I thought the truth deserved an audience." She covered her face with her hands and started to cry. Not the kind of tears meant to win sympathy. These were silent, exhausted sobs that came from somewhere deep, where regret and shame meet and become the same thing. I didn't comfort her. I just watched. When she finally looked up again, her voice was small. "So what happens now?" "I filed," I said. "You'll get the papers tomorrow. Everything will be fair. You keep your car, your half of the savings, the house if you want it. I'll take the rest." She blinked, confused. "You're not fighting me?" "There's no point," I said. "You already lost the only thing that mattered." She nodded slowly, as if the truth had weight she hadn't felt until that moment. After a while, she whispered, "I thought I'd hate you for what you did that night. But I don't. I hate myself." I believed her. I finished my coffee, cold, bitter, and stood. "I'll send someone to pick up the rest of my things next week." She rose too, wiping her eyes. "Where will you go?" "I don't know yet," I said. "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere without ghosts." I turned toward the door, but she stopped me with one last question. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I hesitated. The easy answer would have been no. The harder one was the truth. "I don't know if forgiveness is the right word," I said. "But someday, I'll stop needing to hate you. Maybe that's close enough." She nodded, lips pressed together, tears streaming again. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know," I said. "I just wish it mattered sooner." Then I left. The weeks that followed felt unreal, like living inside a house with all the furniture gone, but the outlines still visible on the carpet. People at work offered sympathy in quiet tones. A few asked if I was okay. I told them I was fine. I wasn't, not yet. But I was getting there. At night, I deleted the recordings. All of them. The hotel video, the car audio, the texts. I didn't need them anymore. They'd served their purpose. The truth, once revealed, has no reason to keep existing in digital form. Instead, I started rebuilding, literally. I took a freelance project designing a bridge across the eastern marshes, a lonely, windswept stretch of land an hour from the city. The quiet helped. The work gave me something solid to hold. Every day, I drove home to an empty apartment that didn't yet feel like mine. I cooked simple meals. I walked in the evenings. Slowly, the noise inside my head softened. Sometimes, I'd still think about her. The way she used to laugh, before it turned into a weapon. The way she looked the first time she said she loved me. Those memories didn't hurt anymore. They just reminded me I was capable of love once, and maybe I would be again. One evening, a few months later, I stopped by the small park near the bridge site. The sky was turning orange, and the water below reflected it like fire. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. For a second, I almost didn't answer. Then I did. A woman's voice, gentle, hesitant. "Mr. Hale? This is Emily from Pierce Physical Therapy. I wanted to let you know that Mason Pierce no longer works here. He moved out of state. We found your contact information in a file he'd left behind, and I thought you should know in case there were unresolved matters." I thanked her, ended the call, and stared at the river until the light faded. It didn't bring satisfaction, just closure. Quiet, clean, absolute. I realized, standing there, that revenge hadn't fixed anything. It hadn't erased the betrayal or filled the hollow space she'd left. But it had done something else. It had ended the story. It had allowed me to stop being the man defined by her lies. Now, I was just me again. Months later, I received an envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Jenna's handwriting. "I sold the house. I'm starting over. I hope you have too. J." No apologies this time. No please. Just an ending. I folded the paper neatly and slid it into a drawer. Outside my window, the wind shifted, carrying the smell of salt from the sea. Somewhere far off, I imagined her doing the same, breathing for the first time without walls around her. For me, the healing didn't come from revenge or justice. It came from silence, the kind that exists after the last line is spoken, when the truth has already done its work and the world finally exhales. I still remember that morning, the way her phone lit up in the steam-filled bathroom. Last night was perfect. It was, in its way, because it was the beginning of the end. And sometimes, endings are the only perfect thing left.